So, Catalina. This is a map, of course, that, a little bit of an interesting setup here for PvP. Lots of locations to hide proxies in, of course, and definitely also a place where, hello, definitely also a place where the typical player has to deal with um, potential for blinks, also extremely powerful on a map like this. But anyway, we can get into that more in just a second, as we are going to introduce our first player in the bottom right. We have from Clan Awhale, it is Shadver. Apparently a fan of rude cats, judging by the icon. And the left side of the map we have, from no clan in particular, it is our red Protoss, Mercury. So first off here, of course, the most obvious and important map feature that everyone has to talk about is these three pillars that make a perfect triangle in the middle of the map, as well as this statue here with this Protoss figure pointing off into the distance. And of course, perhaps to a lesser extent in importance, we have the giant squid made of stone in the middle of the map. And it's not quite as important to me as these statues of what I presume are the preservers, like every other thing in Protoss architecture, but we don't know, that's not always the case. As I was saying before, though, this is one good location for blink-ins. It can happen here. I believe this may be close enough as well, and of course there's the usual front of the base. So basically every map is great, is probably at least good for blink play, at least okay for blink play. Some maps, however, are absolutely fantastic for it, and this is one I look at, and I think I would like to try that strategy. Of course, proxying oracles, I can think of a lot of places I would love to do that. You could actually do it slightly off to the side in the middle of the map, get you relatively good distance from every single base. A little bit harder to scout, too, since you can see the natural scout paths that the probe actually takes do not really run through the center of the map, so it is one location where you can hide them. Not to mention you have this base off to the corner, this one up here, good locations to hide things. So pretty much you got to be on your guard and ready for anything. So far, our players aren't doing anything particularly odd. Mercury's going for the typical cybernetic score in the 2-gas build. It looks like his opponent Shadver is doing essentially the same thing. Maybe grabbing the gases a little bit quicker, but mining only 2 at a time. This is just another standard opening. It focuses on getting stalkers out a little quicker. Does not necessarily mean too much in this particular game, though. So probe's getting up here. Next probe's going off to the top right. Zealot will be out in time. Shouldn't be able to stop this probe from getting some eyes on the tech at least. And interestingly enough, we have a very vast Twilight Council from Mercury. The scout from Shadver is already up here at his base. He needs to move this, though. He's actually not checked it out yet. He's looking around. He's trying to find out more about the tech of his opponent, and he actually should be able to pick up on that Twilight Council. I'll just watch and see if he clicks on it, and bammo. Yep, so he knows the Twilight tech is coming. That's going to mean either Blink or DTs. Pretty much nobody rushes High Templar in PvP. Not to say that you can't do it, but it's just not going to be something you're expecting to run into. Twilight Council is now done, so I expect to see Blink or DT Shrine started shortly thereafter, and it looks like it's going to be Blink. We have a stalker on the high ground here who's going to be able to cut off scouting actually from this probe. Does not get to see any tech from his opponent, and it looks like a robotics facility is the choice from Shadver. And I think this is actually a very, very wise decision. The robotics bay gives you the ability to grab the detection. Hey ZRQ, this was rescheduled yesterday. Yeah, so in other words, no, it wasn't on the schedule, but welcome, sir, anyway. Mercury versus Shadver was moved. We originally thought it might have to be moved to next weekend, but the players agreed to play tonight. Didn't really have time to get Zero on board, so it's just me casting tonight, but as you can see, we are just fine. As this is Protoss versus Protoss, and this is the one matchup I actually really understand anyway, so yay. But Robotics Bay coming out, which means we're going to have detection for the possible ETs, Immortals to defend against the Blink tech, and he should be more or less okay, unless he just decides to defend a little bit too hard against the Blink tech. Mothership core now in base. We have a potential. This should get away. I mean, even if you threw down Photon Overcharge, you could still kind of float out of its range. I think the Mothership core would be fine there. 2 gateways coming into play, and we have a Corona boosted Immortal. Pretty much at this point with Blink, We need to get up to about 2 to 3 Immortals and a decent chunk of Stalkers. If you can pull that off, you should be able to more or less survive. Oh, this is a very sneaky move from Mercury, throwing this pylon down on the left. And I have to say, this expansion is kind of brave from Shadver. I wouldn't necessarily call it a great idea. I wouldn't necessarily call it a reckless one. But if he can get away with it, obviously seal the game for him. But it also may just mean that he simply doesn't have very many Stalkers at this initial push. 2 Stalkers, Zealot, I think. Nope, 2 Sentries. 2 Stalkers, 2 Sentries, which may not actually help out all that much with this unless he wants to save up for Guardian Shield. And, ooh, catches the Stalkers warping in. Photon, Time Warp comes down, Photon Overcharge comes down in response, and the Stalkers have been driven back. The Observer actually being in, woo, trying to blink down top of the army, wants to take out the Immortal, does not yet does get the Immortal at the cost of nearly his entire army, and loses his forward defense pylon. Putting down another one at the front, though, Mercury is going to be able to continue this push. Another warp into 4. Is he going for the 4-gate version? No, this is the 3-gate version. Okay. 3-gate Stalkers, so 3 more Stalkers warped in, and there is more than enough defenses to hold this. I think Shadver should more or less be okay. This is a very brave move. Oh, this is also a very bold move. Blinking into the main base right now. Mercury wants to get what damage he can done, and he is already kind of behind. Kills 1 probe, 2 more Stalkers being warped in, triggering the AI, so he's not able to get any more, and he blinks out without any real danger. More units being warped in on the low ground, and the thing is, as the army grows in power, Shadver should be more or less able to defend this, but it is potentially possible for Mercury to keep blinking back in, doing damage over here, doing damage over there, essentially buy himself time until he can get a follow-up ready. And it looks like the follow-up is going to be in the form of the natural. 4 Stalkers already blinked in the main base, the rest going back home. Looks like he wants to split his forces. And Shadver is actually going to move out to the middle of the map. He's already moved some of his units down to deal with the pylon. Mercury is not taking the bait, though, and Shadver really is not checking the rest of his base, so he does not know about these 4 Stalkers being up there in the top right. However, they are going to reveal themselves. He's moving down, going straight for the straight for the probes on the right side of the map. Going for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How much more will we be able to get? 7, 8, 9? Blinks to the back, kills a couple more. 10, 11, 12. Fantastic damage done now by our red Protoss. Unfortunately, he has had to sacrifice half of his Stalkers in order to do that. So he's going to be a little bit vulnerable right now. The question will be, does Shadver actually want to commit across the map at this point? There is a timing here where he could potentially get some damage done, and it looks like that's exactly what Shadver wants to do. That was an excellent move from Mercury, killing basically 1 base's worth of probes. So why do Protoss wall on their ramps in PvP? This, I believe, was for a scouting denial, or this was an accident. I'm not 100% certain what's going on up here with Mercury's base, but Shadver was not going for anything particularly aggressive early on or anything, so I'm not really sure what the point of that was either. I might ask it during the interview, though, because I'm actually kind of curious now. So we have 3 Zealots, Photon Overcharge, 2 actually are going to be ready by the time this army gets here, and 3 Stalkers. This army cannot survive against this one. It's just the real question is just going to be how well will it be able to deal with the initial push. Photon Overcharge, I think, is going to be very, very key. We have 2 High Templar being warped in. He'll be able to use that to damage the Mothership core. I don't think he'll necessarily take it out completely, but it's getting close to the point where it might. If he does not throw that down immediately, he flies it over, sees the Archon. Feedback, go figure. And here comes the attack. He's got Photon Overcharge in play, trying to utilize that to basically scare the army away, but Shadver is not being dissuaded. In fact, he's pushing forward into Mercury's base, and he's going to, looks like he's focusing down the Nexus for just a moment, wants to take care of the rest of the army units. There are 3 Immortals, though, and they destroy buildings ever so quickly as the Nexus does fall. And with the Nexus out of commission, the economy advantage goes squarely back in Shadver's hands, and Mercury has lost his options. It's the end of Game 1.